2023 was a year I experimented with a lot of new game series. I for a long while exclusively played platformers, JRPGs and building sims, but after a lot of annoyance from my smelly, disgusting friends, I decided to give some of what they like to go. This led to me trying the likes of the Souls series, the Silent Hill series, and some Guilty Gear games, but most importantly of all, it led me to trying Yakuza. As I played for the Yakuza series, I ended up playing the spin-off Judgment, where you play as an ex-attorney Takayuki Yagami as he solves a series of murders. And while playing Judgment, there was a reference to the Ace Attorney series in the story. It made me go, hey, that's the funny game with the lawyers that want to fuck each other and they should objection. Maybe I should give it a go. And as fate would have it, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy just so happened to be on sale 2 minutes after I fought that. I bought them, and 2 months later, when I had no Yakuza games left to play, I booted up the trilogy for the first time, and damn! Hooked instantly. The style, the music, the writing, and the characters were like nothing else from any other game I had played before. I was addicted and binged the whole trilogy over the course of a month, and God, the ending of that final game, man, left such a distinct impression on me, I needed to play more! So I looked up the series and saw there was 8 more games, and most of them weren't available on modern consoles, so I was about to play them with less than savoury means, until Capcom announced the next trilogy was getting a collection the following year. So I picked up the Great Ace Attorney, I sealed the 7 Seas and played the 2 Investigations games, and a friend bought me a used copy of the Layton crossover. Then I got the Apollo Justice trilogy when it came out and finished everything the series had to offer. Now you may ask, why would I go through so much trouble to play every single one of these games? I'm autistic as hell, but I don't regret it, because even the worst Ace Attorney game is a good-ass game, and the quality of the series never wavered. More than I can say about some other game series I enjoy. But I think the thing that made Ace Attorney really easy to binge was actually how the stories are structured into a case-by-case basis. For example, the first case could be you solving an assassination attempt on a president. The next one could be solving how a blind man's dog killed a guy in prison. You see how it's just fun, you never know what you're going to get next after the previous one, and it keeps things fresh, and it keeps me excited to see what they're going to throw at me. So after experiencing every case this series has, I'm going to work my way up from the F tier cases to the S tier ones. I'm going to discuss and rank all of it. The good, the bad, and the nonce. Let's get into it. Jesus Christ, what was Shu Takumi on when he crafted this? At 50th, we've got Turnabout Big Top. In this case, Phoenix and Maya are investigating the murder of a circus ringleader, Russell Berry, who was killed after a performance the previous night. Now, if anyone watching this knows anything about Ace Attorney in this case, then they should know it's universally hated by the fandom. Though I've noticed most people talk about this case and say, oh, it's not as bad as people say it is, it's got redeeming qualities, and I gotta completely disagree, this case is ass! Let's start off with the circus itself, as it's one of the fucking lesser problems of this case. And its issue is so simple. This shit ugly as hell to look at. The somehow drained out bright colours alongside the shitty ugly ass environments of the circus itself just make it so draining to look at and really made me want to skip over everything the fucking characters were saying. Speaking of which, nearly everyone in this case is like the most annoying human being ever. All of them are members of this circus, and no wonder, because they got no qualities for any other type of employment. To start off, we have Mo the Clown, who was best friends with the victim. And while he isn't the worst dickhead here, he might be the most annoying. And the sad part is, there's moments where I don't mind him, particularly when we delve into his friendship with the victim and how he's now the pseudo-caretaker to the victim's daughter. But they're drowned out by the fact he won't shut the fuck up with his dumbass jokes, and for some reason, the writers thought the joke being that he's insanely annoying and unfunny would be funny. And to top it off, when you have to cross-examine him, this fucking dumbass judge gets mad if he makes a joke when Phoenix presses him, so we get penalised? What? Stupid ass judge penalising me while we got 2 nonces on the stand. Oh yeah, next on our FBI Most Wanted is our defendant, Max Galactica, a farm boy who made it big as a famous magician who even won an award for his talent, as he reminds you of. Constantly. In the first day of this case, Phoenix wasn't even going to take his defence, and I don't blame him. This case does no good reason to make us want to defend this prick. He insults Phoenix any chance he gets, he's up his own hole with how smarmy he is, and he even treats his fellow circus freaks like shit. Not to mention he's got the hots for the ringleader's daughter Regina, and she's... Yeah, not really incentivizing me to defend this guy when he's whacking his co-workers over who gets to smash a little ass kid. Said co-worker being Benjamin Wood, a ventriloquist with his puppet and fellow pedophile, Trillo, who is determined to get Max locked away so much he'd lie under oath, all because he wants to smash a kid. What the fuck? Who's funding this circus? Jeffrey Epstein? And what makes things worse is that said little girl, Regina, has no fucking clue what's going on with all of this. Because of her sheltered upbringing, she doesn't really understand these things. Hell, she doesn't even understand her father's been killed. She thinks he's become a fucking star. So it just makes everything feel so much more creepy. And they don't even give her any character outside of the fact that she's dumb and irritating. So she just feels like a plot device used to create tension. Oh man, this case is giving me a headache. I need music to soothe my... Oh, what the fuck? Oh, the fucking circus theme that plays all the time in this case is the most ear-bleeding song in the entire series. I'm not joking. It's just loud noise that hurts my head. God, does this case have anything going for it? Well, there's one thing I'll give this case. The culprit Acro ain't bad. He's got a good motive, and the backstory on why he carried out his attempted murder makes sense. And I like how the game doesn't try to portray him in the right, and tries to get you to understand him more than justify him. Though his fucking plan gotta be the dumbest murder plot this series has got, and that's saying something. So yeah, I hate this case. The characters disgust me, the music annoys the fuck out of me, and it's just so draining to play. But what scares me more than anything is that the next case is not that much better. Number 49, the Kidnap Turnabout. And to jump the gun a bit, I am sorry, I really have fuck all to say about this snooze fest. It's the third case of Edgeworth Investigations 1, and it takes place in an amusement park where an old friend of Edgeworth, one Ernest Amano's son, Lance Amano, has been kidnapped. But of course it turns out there's more than meets the eye, blah blah blah, it's attorney shenanigans, it's a murder, who would have guessed it? And yeah, honestly, the only thing it has over our previous entry is a lack of pedophiles, so starting off strong. But in fairness, the case does introduce us to some great new mainstays in Kay Faraday, Edgeworth's self-proclaimed assistant, and supposedly the great thief, the Yaguraratsu, who's just a lovable little gremlin. This case also gives us Shilong Lang, an international cop investigating the smuggling ring with ties to this kidnapping case, who serves as Edgeworth's rival. And he makes a great foil to Edgeworth. Their back and forth is brilliant, but I'll talk more about these two in later entries. But besides our new mainstays, everything else sucks! To start off, every new non-mainstay character introduced here makes me want to die. To start off, we have our makeshift defendant, one Lauren Pops. She's a maid to Mr. Amano and Lance's girlfriend, and dear God, I don't even know why she's here. She just spends the whole case swooning over Edgeworth, which, you know, fair. But the second she gets accused of the murder that happened, she just backs away and takes it because she wants to take the fall for her smelly boyfriend. And yeah, I know, she's young, she's dumb, and in love, I get it. But even after the victim is revealed to be her father, she still insists she murdered him? What? You're actively hindering us proving the innocence in the murder of your father because of this motherfucker? Also, Lance himself, our culprit, not even worth mentioning. He's easily the worst killer in the series. Just some stuck-up, ugly rich boy who adds nothing to this case at all. He couldn't even have a good breakdown. As for the setting, an amusement park is a really cool idea for a place to solve a murder, but it's just so washed out. Like, even the Wild West area for some reason is just devoid of colour and is so lifeless. And this theme park is sponsored by the local police force of Japanifornia. Oh fuck, those badgers from Rise from the Ashes are back. Their annoying ass music with this annoying ass police force mascot. Fuck me, they really stink up this case. And actually solving the mystery of this case involves a lot of dumb keeping track of what kidnapper was wearing what costume and differences in costumes from across time, and they just really make this case unfun to solve. So yeah, I'd say it's a little bit better than our previous entry, but not by much. Though thankfully this would be the end of the F tier cases. Now we're entering what I call the D tier. Not good, but not really bad either. Number 48, the first turnabout. First turnabout would have to be the least offensive thing ever. It's a perfect intro to the world of Ace Attorney, and while the mystery is very, very simple, I'd rather that than whatever the fuck those last two were. And to give this case some more credit, the way that they introduce all the characters is really good. While none of the characters get to show off any of their complexity yet, they still all do a good job of being really entertaining. Phoenix in particular here is really funny and charming. I mean, come on, just look at this sexy beast. Mia's fine here, does a decent job of being a tutorial, and Larry Butts might actually be at his best here. You see, this is him pre-joining up with that circus, so he's less creepy and more charming stupid. Overall, there isn't much to the first turnabout, but there isn't anything to hate about the first turnabout. It's fine. Number 46, The Lost Turnabout. I've seen some people say this is the worst case in all of Ace Attorney, and don't get me wrong, it's very dumb, but it's a fine enough reintroduction and completely harmless. In this case, Phoenix is hit over the head with a fire extinguisher by this upstanding gentleman and has lost all his memories so they can reteach us the mechanics. And yeah, that's really stupid, but come on, the fact Phoenix can win a case where he doesn't even know he's a fucking lawyer is kinda funny, and shows how powerful his main character energy is. But yeah, there ain't much to say on this either, real basic tutorial, it's fine. However, it's got a couple things I think help it rank above the first turnabout. Like our villain, Richard Wellington. He's a bit more entertaining than Frank did it. He's also a bit more hateable too, so he's more fun to take down. And the mystery's a little bit more fun to solve, a little more complicated than the first turnabout, and that banana looking glove's really funny, I don't care. Number 46, The Foreign Turnabout. You know, this would win the first spot for the most racist Ace Attorney case, so at least it has some sort of accolade going for it. But yeah, I don't really like this case. It's got more going for it than the last two first cases I talked about. It's higher stakes, I suppose. Anyway, the case starts with Phoenix landing in the country of Khura'in, where defense attorneys are treated as a race of people for some reason, and he ends up meeting I'll be your guide?
I beg your pardon?
Who guides him through the country and its culture, only for this small child to be arrested for the murder of an armed guard. Okay. If you're a fully grown man with a gun and you get taken out by a child whose entire existence is literally a name pun, then bitch, you deserve to die. But we know it's actually Jesus Christ here, and Phoenix takes the kid's defense. And it leads into the one standout scene I really think this case has. It's the one where Phoenix is told about how defense attorneys are scum and the consequences for losing a case is the same sentence as the accused, which in this case is the death sentence. You know, fuck them kids. And when Phoenix hears this news, he's like, oh hell nah, I did not just come all the way out here to see Maya just to die in this courtroom. But then, when he looks at Albie, he starts to remember his backstory in the first game, when he was a child and he was accused of stealing some other boy's lunch money and no one believed in him. And it really gets him thinking. And you see this revelation dawn on him, and it pushes him to take Albie's defense. He does the signature point, and the sick-ass objection theme this game has starts playing. And you know what? That's enough for it to be above the last 4 cases alone. But other than that scene, nah, this ain't it, man. The new gameplay mechanic they introduced here, the divination seance, is explained really poorly in my opinion, and led me to losing health that I didn't think was fair or my fault. And the fucking cutscene for it just doesn't end. Jesus Christ, hurry it up! And as for the new character who performs the seance, Rayfa, ugh. In this case at least, I just wanted her to shut the fuck up. Like, it's good groundwork for her character, but Jesus Christ, the development she gets later on majorly lifts her up. This case did her no favours. And as for our culprit, Jesus Christ, he's fine. I don't think he's overly fun, but his breakdown is entertaining at least, but much like the case overall, he's aight. A decent intro and nothing more. Number 45, Turnabout Time Traveler. And that would be an accurate summarization of this case. Really boring, and to top it off, it has far too many ideas at play. This case sees Phoenix solving a murder around a wedding and time travel while also being a nostalgic throwback to the original trilogy.
What?
They have newer characters like Athena and Trucy barely involved in the case, and have it mainly focused around Phoenix, Maya, and Edgeworth. And I'm down for some nostalgia pondering, and God knows I eat that shit up, but there are so many things jammed into this case that it just feels like it's added on for the sake of it. And to top it off for the pandering, they bring Larry Bumhole back? Dear God, of all the OGs we bring back, we get this idiot? What about my boy Big Cock Gumshoe? At least I have an erection the whole time I be playing this case. The new characters, Ellen and Soren, they're aight, and the relationship is very cute, but Soren only starts to show his personality near the end of the case. Reminds me of another loser in the same game. I'll say I really like the setting of the steampunk airship. It's cool, and I like how they work that into the mystery. However, what I don't like is the time travel gimmick. It's just so needlessly stupid, even for this series. Like, to try and make Ellen think she's went back in time by having 2 receptions is so dumb, and just feels unnecessary, and bloats the case with even more themings. And I know Ace Attorney cases usually have a central theme in like a circus or a theme park, but this is like a triple combo of a wedding, the nostalgia trip, and the time travel just really bloats this case. And to top it off, it's not helped by the fact that it's really boring and drags. The case also isn't helped by its culprit being just as boring as it, and having the most predictable backstory in existence. So yeah, one or two decent things to it, but I don't know, being boring's a cardinal sin. You know, when it comes to this, man, I think Van Zyke's got a point. On number 44, we have The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. It's our first grade Ace Attorney case on the list, and it's very boring. If I can say any positives about this case, I gotta compliment how easily it transitions from the previous case's ending. We get to see the effects that ending had on Ryunosuke, and this case gives him some wonderful character development.
Okay.
Herlock Sholmes is comedic gold as always, and I really like how there's little connections to future cases sprinkled about here. Like my Ace Attorney embedded brain made me say out loud, oh hey, he's the killer when this clown showed up, so I actually somewhat didn't see the twist coming that he wasn't the killer, so that was kind of fun. Also, these two witnesses here are adorable. When I saw how the wife kept pulling the scarf on him, I was worried it was going to be some abusive relationship ass twist, but the way he totally ignored his responsibilities for her is so cute. But that's the positives. Now for the negatives.
This man.
That was our defendant, one Sosuke Natsume, an annoying hyperactive man whose whole gimmick is posing and saying words very slowly and dramatically, and destroying the pacing of the case while he's at it. And on top of the fact that he's incredibly annoying, he's an asshole. He blames the victim in this case for getting stabbed in the back because she was in front of him and got him accused of the murder. What? Fuck you. Also introduced in this case, we have these two, the Garland and his wife, Maid. No, I don't remember their real names, fuck them. And along with them, we get their incredibly annoying gimmick of her getting annoyed by him and spilling tea on him. That also hits the pace like a truck, with the 10 fucking times they do it and still think it's funny. And it turns out that the attempted murder in this case wasn't actually even an attempted murder. It was a house fight between these two that causes Miss Britches to throw shit at Garland in the hectic chaos, including a knife that banged off their open window, ricocheted downwards, and just so happened to stab the girl below.
I beg your pardon?
I love some dumbass murder scheme twists in this series, don't get me wrong, I really do. But this one is on a whole other level. And the worst part is that these two fucking gremlins get off of it with no consequences. Oh yeah, this bitch gets a light slap on the hand, goes to prison for maybe 2 months, but these idiots in their dumbass marriage spat nearly caused this woman her life. And they know it's their fault halfway through the case and they're fine with it. They're just lying and letting this guy get the death set. Actually, you know what, this guy, they cooking. And I'm sorry I've been repeating the last few entries. This case is really mind-numbingly boring, and outside the insanely annoying new characters, it's just a snooze to solve. Ugh. Overall, wait, what was I even talking about again? This is all this case needs. This is all you need to know about this case. This is all you need to see about this case. Everything that this is this case. There is nothing else to this case. That is final. Next entry. Alright, all jokes aside, here at actually number 43 we have Turnabout Storyteller. And can I just say, Athena Sykes, you poor girl. You get barely any cases, and when you do, you get an afterthought where people only remember it from their pants getting wet from Black Quill grabbing them, or this clown's boobies. This case sees Athena solving the murder of a performer, Typho, who was killed in his own tofu shop, and yes, this is the afterthought of afterthoughts. It just starts with 2 minutes of random exposition and you're thrown in without investigating, it's over in like 2 hours, and the only thing I remember was that Simon Blackwell was very, very sexy. Speaking on Simon Blackwell, he's the best thing this case has, bar none. The way he big brothers Athena is so cute, and seeing him on the defensive side was awesome. It was great to have him taking the piss out of Nayuta and slicing his smelly monk magic in half. I came. And as for Athena herself, she's really oddly written here. Even though she has solved a whole case by herself before and played a major part in solving some of the biggest cases in Dual Destinies, she keeps getting portrayed as a novice idiot who needs cradled, and I think that's really annoying writing. Speaking on annoying, we have this man, the main prosecutor of Spirit of Justice, Nayuta Sakamane. In my opinion, the worst main prosecutor in the entire franchise, bar none, and he's at his most fucking irritable here. And the worst part is, I had a bit of hope for him after the ending of the last case, because he acted like he learned a lesson after he lost to Phoenix. No, he didn't. He's just an asshole with no entertaining qualities or redeeming ones. And the worst part is, he acts like he's learned something again after he loses in this one.
What?
And this smug attitude of his where he keeps acting like he's better than Athena. She's the novice, he's the pro. Bitch, you getting passed around the Right Anything agency like a bad hooker. Fuck off. Our main culprit's kind of funny. She has balloon boobies, so that's awesome. Her motivation for killing Typho is pretty solid. Bit ridiculous, but, you know, we take what we can get. But that's all there is to her. She's alright. Just like the case itself, it exists. Simon Blackwell was very hot, and that's all that really matters in the end anyway. Number 42, The Adventure of the Great Departure. We got another first case of all time first case, and I don't got much to say in this one either, sorry. But it has some decent moments for sure. That's why it's been bumped above the previous ones. For example, I love when we get introduced to Susato for the first time, when she bursts into the courtroom with some new case-defining evidence. And bitch-ass Payne over there gets all sexist on her with his whole, "No women allowed in court, please," and she doesn't even give a fuck and just passes his Mort Goldman-looking ass. What a queen. And I also really like the culprit in this case, Giselle Brett. She's really over the top and entertaining and a joy to take down. Much better than the usual first case killer. Though she kinda has a similar vibe to another demon we'll talk about later. Now, as for my problems with this case, I'd say its biggest is that it's too similar to Trials and Tribulations and Apollo Justice's first cases. But the difference is that those two kinda subvert your expectations as they kinda soft parody the first turnabout. This kinda has the same thing as the Phoenix equivalent being a defendant and his mentor figure basically being the one defending him. But that's really it. It hits all the same points, you know who the villain is even though they don't tell you at the start like most first cases. And you have the same, "Oh, it's over, I'm sorry I couldn't defend you. Oh wait, objection!" And then it does the whole white flash shit. And we get the interruption and some last second vital evidence and win the case, and it ends the same as all our previous entries. Which is fine, I love Ace Attorney for that, but still, I think it needs to calm down on that same type of trope of the first cases, and this being the 10th Ace Attorney game, really should have reined it in a bit. Lastly, unfortunately for me in this case, Ryunosuke doesn't do it yet. He feels too similar to Phoenix, which I get might have been the point, you know, whole new storyline in the same world, but it doesn't help this case's already too familiar feeling. Although I will say, the scene where he does his very first objection was so cool. Amazing scene, and got me a little more invested in him. Alright, now we're moving on from the D tier cases onto the C tier cases. These are cases I think are pretty decent, and I have no problems replaying them whenever I touch these games again. Number 41, Turnabout Countdown. The case that has got the hardest, sexiest suit-up scene in fiction. God damn! Look at Phoenix! After playing Apollo Justice and seeing his downfall, this was simply pants-wetting. And as an intro case, it's pretty damn decent. Yeah, it shows us the killer's Ted Tony straight off the bat, but let's be real, one look at this dickhead and you know he's the killer anyway. And I don't mind the killer being obvious, as long as he's entertaining, and this guy's pretty entertaining. I like how the courtroom just entertains a guy assembling and disassembling a bomb after an explosion like 2 days ago and a person got murdered during it. And for a first case, it also fits into the larger narrative pretty decently, which is something I really can't say about most of these first cases we've talked about so far. Case also gives us Athena Sykes for the first time, and while she doesn't do too much here, she's just really fun and brings a good vibe to the courtroom.
Which is insane considering.
Lastly, I gotta reiterate it one more time, Phoenix is brilliant here. He's the perfect mix of his goofy trilogy self and his more badass, confident, in control Bridge to the Turnabout and Apollo Justice self. And I love the mentorial role he's taken on with Athena and Apollo here. He's great. So yeah, really decent case. Not much to write home about, but there's not a single thing about it I dislike. So as first cases go, it's pretty good. Number 40, Turnabout Memories. And to jump the gun a bit, this case is pretty solid, but we gotta address the arsehole in the room. Literally. I gotta ask, who the fuck on the script writing team, or the translation team, I don't really care, gave the Pringles man hemorrhoids? He won't stop speaking about the state of his anus for like the entire case. He even says the fucking Harlem Shake is going on in his gluteus maximus? What? So besides Grossberg's anus situation, this case is pretty solid. It takes place before the first two games where you play as Phoenix Wright's mentor Mia as she defends a young Phoenix in a flashback. And when I first saw this, I thought this was fucking awesome. Getting to see that Phoenix used to be a little bitch despite the giga chat he grew into, you know what? Give me some hope that maybe I could do the same. Phoenix isn't the only one we get to see a new side to. For the first time in the entire trilogy, I feel like we finally get to see who Mia really is. In the first two games, I thought she was just fine, you know, she was a perfect Deus Ex Machina to help save Phoenix, she was good at teaching the tutorial, but this gave her so much personality. Rookie Mia is just so fun to watch, and seeing her like this kinda humanizes her. because it shows she wasn't always perfect and knows the answer to everything, and even her animations are downright adorable. Her smug little hair flip thing she does when she thinks she has aura is too cute. Now what ain't cute is this demon. This case also serves our introduction to one Dahlia Hawthorne, the overarching villain for not only this game, but arguably the entire trilogy, and right off the bat she's so instantly fucking hateable. She's Phoenix's current girlfriend and the victim Doug Swallow's ex, so I already knew from that information she's probably the killer, because she has connections to both. But the way she plays these two idiots here with her demeanor making her look so absolutely perfect and innocent is really infuriating, but in a good way, as it makes you really want to just fucking... And seeing the cracks slowly start to come out more and more as Mia starts to get to her more is so satisfying. And when you finally take her down, it's actually a little anticlimactic. Which is fine, because I could pick up that her story wasn't through yet.
Unfortunately.
So overall, a really solid case. Again, because it's an intro, it's very short, but it uses its time well and introduces us to the game's plot brilliantly. This one might get me blacklisted, but what can you do? Number 39, Turnabout Samurai. This case is very okay in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, it has lots of good qualities, but also a lot of bad to balance it all out. So the case sees Phoenix now in charge of the law offices, and Maya, shortly after becoming his assistant, investigating the murder of an actor on a children's Power Rangers-like show, called The Steel Samurai. The actor's co-star, Will Powers, is our defendant, and he is an absolute joy. He may look like a lion, but he's just huggable like a teddy, and is just the sweetest thing. And this case is also really good at not making the culprit obvious for most of it, and it really plays with the idea Will could be our killer, which is good considering the last two cases just showed us who it was anyway. The case also is a really good mystery to solve, which I can't take away from it at all. The whole case linking back to a murder years prior and figuring out how everything's connected is really fun. And I also love how this case sets up Phoenix and Maya's dynamic. They bounce off each other beautifully here. Their banter just feels so natural. It's like hearing me and my mate talk to each other, and the way how Maya always wins their exchanges somehow is golden. But as good as all that is, the number one thing that really drags this case down for me is the pacing. Fuck me, the pacing is dreadful. This case is extended on for 3 days, which means investigating around this boring, ugly, washed out film set forever. It also don't help, they don't play any music when investigating around, so it's just dull ass nothingness and cricket sounds. And most of the new characters they introduce here are wank. This case introduces 6 new people, and I swear you could cut half of them. Like, the assistant girl literally just exists to exposition dump details to you. This guy's a fucking pedophile. This kid doesn't need to exist and is really, really annoying. And while I find Wendy Oldbag kinda funny, I think she stays relevant to the case for far too long. Although her flirt with Edgeworth is still golden. And as for our killer, Dee Vasquez, she's alright. Satisfying enough to take down, but not colourful enough to be remembered. And I have to reiterate it again, I'm sorry. Why is a Power Rangers movie set so boring to investigate? And it sucks, because I really want to love this case because of its good aspects. But I just can't, bros and broettes. But to end on a positive, I love the scene where Edgeworth breaks and helps Phoenix corner Dee Vasquez. It's really cool to start seeing some cracks play on Edgeworth and show us that at heart, he's really not as bad as we think. And he himself is really funny across this case. But the pacing, man, which is something so important to me, and they really fucked it up here, which leaves what could be a great case just okay. Number 38, The Monstrous Turnabout. This case is kinda overhated in my opinion. It has pretty much every issue as Turnabout Samurai, I just find them all a lot less egregious here. But anyway, the case sees Apollo solving the murder of Rex Cuby, who was the alderman of the village of Ninetales-Vale, a village Apollo just so happened to be visiting when him and Trucy were there to see a friend of hers, Trixie, a girl who's absolutely terrified of yokai, which is basically a type of Japanese folklore goat. Her father, Damien Tenma, just so happens to be the mayor of Ninetales-Vale, and he's our defendant. And he's very similar to Will in the fact that he is the highlight. When we first meet him, I really liked him. He's so respectful, and you see how much he loves his daughter, and it instantly makes you want to help him. But I ultimately still prefer Will, because Damien starts to annoy me midway through the case when he starts pretending to be possessed by a yokai. It's to keep suspicion off his daughter, so it's kinda cute, but this whole yokai thing gets really old, comes out of nowhere, and is very unfunny very quickly. One thing I really enjoy about the case without fault is the setting. I think Ninetales-Vale is really visually appealing to look around, and I love the lore of the place. A lot better than, say, a boring movie set. which is a common complaint I hear about the case, which I'll have to disagree. Another common complaint I hear about this case is that it shows the killer too early in the opening cutscene. And don't get me wrong, besides the first cases I'm usually against this, but besides Don Tigre, this guy is already the most obvious killer ever. Look at him! You're gonna tell me you could play this case and not immediately know this clown is our killer? Come on now, let's be for real. And besides, I think Florian LaBelle's really entertaining. The way he just assaults Apollo and everyone else with his perfume's really funny, and he's got a good hittable personality that's a joy to take down. Athena also gets a lot more time to shine in this case, and I love her here. She bounces off Apollo brilliantly, and they have a lot of fun interactions. We also get to meet Dual Destiny's main prosecutor, Simon Blackwell here, and he immediately steals the show. The way he plays Simon Says with the judge and manipulates him into doing what he says is brilliant. His silence is great. Immediately made me go, oh fuck. And we get to meet his pet fucking hawk, Taka. I was dying. He's a joy here. Now I'll say, the case definitely shares the same pacing issues as Samurai. It should be a good bit shorter, but I don't think it drags slightly on as much as Samurai did. So overall, it's very okay, but I don't think it deserves the hate it gets. Anything's better than those movie sets after all. Well, besides the circus. Number 37, The Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band. A unique case for the series, as it's the only case in the games that feature courtroom gameplay to not have a courtroom section. Which sounds horrible, because I don't think investigating for a whole case sounds fun at all, but to its credit, it somehow pulls it off. With the case seeing Ryunosuke accused of murdering his best friend and Mia-like mentor character from the previous case, Kazuma. And at a glance, I knew he obviously didn't do it, because, well, couldn't have a game otherwise. Ryunosuke has literally been smuggled on board by Kazuma for reasons that are still not clear. I don't know, I think they're fucking. But when Kazuma is found dead, and the rooms were locked from the inside, and Ryunosuke was in the closet, so immediately things don't look good for our boy. But luckily for Ryunosuke, the world's greatest detective, Sherlock Sholmes, is on the case, and from his very first scene, oh my god, I adore him. His style, his flair, his comedy, which is all completely on point, and the way he bounces off Ryunosuke is perfect. The scene where he slips Ryunosuke's handcuffs off so he can dance with him, only to immediately return them, is brilliant. I also think it's adorable that Susato is a Sherlock Sholmes mega fan and is nerding out about him the whole time. Oh yeah, and this is our first real time with Susato, and she's also great. I like how she slowly realizes and comes to terms with the fact Ryunosuke could not have been the one to kill Kazuma, and starts to trust him more as it goes on. And the fact she just froze him with her takedown move is great. But the biggest highlight is undoubtedly the introduction to the dance of deduction gameplay mechanic. This is without a doubt the best thing they've ever introduced to investigation segments, bar none. It's like having a courtroom gameplay moment in the middle of an investigation segment, just with a lot more flair and the best animations you've ever seen. And I love how Ryunosuke won't admit how much he's enjoying dancing around the place of Sholmes. It's adorable. And it was moments like these that really helped Ryunosuke grow on me, unlike the first case where I wasn't sold on him yet. But this case just had so many little character moments that definitely made him grow on me. I do really like this case, but I wouldn't say it's great. Everything about it's good, besides one or two issues, but that's just it. Nothing's really stand out, and those one or two issues also hold it back a little bit. One of which being that the killer is just kinda okay. I feel for her, Russian ballerina fleeing from her country and everything, but the way she kills Kazuma feels very dumb and cartoony. Which I know might be the point, but it just felt stupid. Also, this boat is boring as fuck to explore. There's like 3 places and 2 of them look the same. I also think it could definitely be a bit shorter. But overall, I still really enjoyed it. It's a perfect introduction to our lot of main characters, and I think it's much better than our previous case. Oh, and I could watch these 2 dance for days.
God, she's back.
Number 36, Turnabout Memories, which sees you playing as Mia in her first case ever as an attorney. But this time, instead of being joined by Rumble in the Arsehole, she's being assisted by Ichiban Kasuga, a very sexy and smooth lawyer who's kind of reminds me a bit of Prosecutor Godot. But anyway, the case sees her defending death row inmate Terry Falls, who's been in prison for 5 years and was being transported to a new prison when his vehicle crashed and he escaped. He then apparently killed Officer Valerie Hawthorne, who just so happened to be the officer who arrested him 5 years ago. So this case has got a really great setup for things to come, and it's really fun to solve the mystery of how it links to Terry Falls' previous murder trial, and how it even links to the first case of Trials and Tribulations. And to top it off, we get to see Edgeworth on his first case as well, and he's pretty entertaining here. Got a real touch of the Von Karma. We also get to see Dahlia Hawthorne from the first case of this game again, and she's just as hateable. And it's cool to see how she connects both this case and the first case together, and you start to figure out little things. Like, I think it's become pretty obvious that Mia's boyfriend who was poisoned in the first case is actually Eric Andre, and it's all very good setup for the finale of this game. But that's oddly enough the case's biggest problem in its own right. It's just kind of a lot of setup. I also think there's some really weird sexist undertones, like how Edgeworth speaks to Mia, or how Mugen talks to Mia. It just kinda rubs me the wrong way. Also, making this video has made me realize how many weird Nazi characters Ace Attorney has. I bring this up because at the end of the case, Terry ends up being poisoned by Dahlia, and the game really wants to make you sad, but it turns out he was dating Dahlia when she was 14, and he was in his 20s! Ugh! Like, even if she is the devil, that's still nasty. So a lot of weird behaviour drags this case down a tad, and it is ultimately just set up, but without it, a future entry on this list would not have hit nearly as hard, so it justifies it alone. Number 35, Turnabout Sisters, Ace Attorney's second ever case, and you know what? I think it's pretty solid. It immediately follows where the first Turnabout left off, with Phoenix Wright's mentor Mia Fey being murdered and her sister Maya being the main suspect. And it's a really simple setup, but I think it's very effective, as this case introduces like 3 of the best characters the series has to offer, has a really solid villain, and doesn't drag on at all. As for the characters, Maya makes her introduction here, and because she just met Phoenix and is incarcerated for most of the case, she doesn't get to flaunt her personality yet, but she's still very likable, and the case does a good job of making you want to help her. And besides, we'll plenty of other time to be more emotionally invested in her as a defendant anyway. Massive Dick Gumshoe makes his intro here, and while he's not a pure god of friendship yet, as we don't get to see much of him, what we do see is still how lovable he is, especially when he accidentally slips his evidence. Last but not least, Phoenix Wright's iconic rival Miles Edgeworth makes his intro here, and he's great. Because he hasn't gotten much development yet, as this is his first case, he's going at Phoenix with everything he has, so he feels more imposing than ever, and it makes it incredibly satisfying when you do knock him down a peg, or when you get one up on him. As for the mystery, it's still really simple to solve, barely more complicated than the first turnabout, but I think that's alright, as this is literally the second ever case they made, so they were working at some kinks. And besides, it at least has more moving parts and pieces than the first turnabout. I also really like the main killer of this case, Red White, and I think he's a massive improvement over Frank did it from the previous case. They just do a lot more with him, like making him feel almost invincible to take down with how much he rigs this case in his favour. He even gets Phoenix arrested over Maya in the second half of the case. And because he has a lot more screen time than Frank, it just means we have a lot more time to get to know him and get to hate him, which makes his downfall all the better. Finally, one last thing I'd like to give the case credit for, as I don't think it gets the credit it deserves for it, is how it introduces the supernatural elements to Ace Attorney, like how Mia gets spirit channeled from the dead by Maya at the end of the case. And I have met a couple of people who don't really like them, which is fair enough if you just prefer the more grounded parts of Ace Attorney, but they are a core part of the mainline game's identity, and the series would be so different without them. So overall, I really enjoy this case. It's simple, but a good proper introduction into the world of Ace Attorney. But that would be the end of our C tier cases. Now we're moving on to the B tier, and every case here I think is very good. Number 34, Turnabout Visitor, the very first case of Investigations 1, and I can recognise this case is probably not a B tier. However, the sheer entertainment value Jack Sportsman adds to this case for me is unreal. Everything about this dickhead, from his attitude to his over-the-top animations to his breakdown, was just a vibe I could roll with the whole way through, and I think he's one of the most underrated culprits in the franchise. And on top of him, I just think it's a solid, fun intro case that builds really well into the game's larger narrative, which in this game's favour, granted, it ain't much, but it's some. And getting to play as Edgeworth again is awesome, and seeing his thoughts on everything is really fun, and any Gumshoe and Edgeworth banter is just beautiful. Also, getting to walk around Edgeworth's office from a new perspective with the new Investigations gameplay style was really fun. So besides it being maybe more complex, I have real no complaints with this case, and really enjoyed my time with it. Plus, Sportsman is my spirit animal, what can I say? Number 33, the Cosmic Turnabout. So much like our last entry, this case is pretty decent, but it just has that one thing so good about it elevates to a B tier for me, but I'll save that for the end. The Cosmic Turnabout sees Apollo defending an old friend of his, an astronaut named Solomon Starbuck, in the murder of Apollo's best friend, and I'm swear he's fucking hallucinating one Clay Terran, and poor Apollo is so devastated by his imaginary best friend's death, he's entered his SMT4 Samurai arc to cope. Oh, and you don't even play as him for the whole case. Halfway through you switch to Phoenix. Kill Apollo. So much like Turnabout Beginnings, the Cosmic Turnabout is kinda a setup case, but I think it does it a lot better than Turnabout Beginnings. For starters, we actually have investigation segments, and it takes place in a fucking spaceport of all things, and it's awesome to investigate. I also like how the game uses location to subtly drop hints on how Athena is more familiar with the mystery at hand than she lets on.
That's a mystery.
This case in general is great at dropping little hints that there's more to this case than you first think. The characters introduced here cryptically bring up some sort of murder that happened years ago that's seemingly connected to the current one.
Ha! Never heard that one before.
And there's even more connecting little pieces to the game's larger narrative in this case. Like Simon Blackwell's sister, Aurora Blackwell, makes her debut here, and she's throwing a lot of shade at Athena. So you know that's gotta mean something. Oh, little side thing, but Bobby Fulbright, the main detective of Dual Destinies, finally started to grow on me here. I didn't really like him in the previous cases and thought him a bit obnoxious, but he's so helpful and nice here that this case, no joke,
Finally made me like him.
he also is the first Cyclops in Apollo's trilogy, and I kinda popped off seeing those come back. But everything I've talked about so far would make this a decent case. I really enjoyed it, but what really got me to lift it up so high is the ending. You see, you end up proving Starbuck couldn't have been the killer, as the killer could have only been the person holding this lighter, to sum it up quickly. And in turn, you prove the killer is whoever print is on it. Just for Simon Blackwell to reveal that the fingerprints belong to Athena Sykes! Wait, what? This ending here is the best cliffhanger in this series. It immediately made me play the next case. I started that shit the second after I finished this one, and I always take a break in between cases. So yeah, I enjoyed myself the whole way through, but that phenomenal ending takes this case to the great beyond. Number 32, Turnabout Ablaze, our very first finale case on this list, and it's easily the weakest one, unfortunately. And it's a real shame, because I could have seen this one joining all the other finale cases up in the A and S tier spots, but it's just got a couple too many big flaws to bring it down to the B tier. But let's start off with the positives, because there is a lot, it's still in the B tier after all, and it's mainly I think the way it wraps up the Yaguraratsu storyline is done incredibly well. Finding out Agent Lang's assistant was actually the woman who murdered Kay's father in the previous case, Callisto Yu in disguise, was a very good twist. Alongside the twist that the Yaguraratsu, the thief Edgeworth was chasing the whole game, was actually part of three people using the same moniker was really cool. And I really should have seen it coming, but it's so expertly hidden behind symbolism and mythology, and it's great stuff. And I think Callisto Yu made a really fun villain.
I really wish they could have worked a way to make her the final villain instead of... we'll get to him.
I also really love Kay in this case. You really do feel for her. She's doing everything she can to finally get the smuggling ring that cost her father's life put to rest, and all the wholesome moments between her and Edgeworth made me uncontrollably happy. And Agent Lang's also really great in this case. Dude's a total badass coming in here with an army of men, getting shot in the leg to protect Kay, and finally seeing him respect Edgeworth was all great stuff. And while it doesn't feel like his story was finished here, it was a good bookend. I also really like Ambassador Peleno here. I thought he was going to be involved in the whole smuggling ring shite at first, but I like how it turned out he just made some mistakes. He was never really involved and just wanted to do right by his country. So I do like this case, and it does have a lot of good about it, but it has one big fundamental issue that just drags it straight down to B tier, and it's the pacing. Oh my god, it fucking drags on longer than any other case in the series. For starters, this fucking prick here, our main culprit Alba, oh, this old wrinkly bastard has like 7 evil testimonies, just to take him down, and every time you think it's over, he's like and hit you with the smallest on why he couldn't have been the killer, as he didn't have a Big Mac for lunch or some bollocks. And by the time you start to try and take him down, you're already like 5 hours into this case, and I thought the mystery was really good and wrapping up nicely, but fuck! And because of him, solving the mystery at the end of the case is ruined. He doesn't even have any fun or challenging testimonies to take down, because all of his points are just so minuscule. Why the fuck is Larry Ennis an old bag here? All they do is just add unnecessary runtime, and while Larry does have an odd funny moment or two with Edgeworth, he's just so pointless. And when him and Old Bag both get involved in an objection near the end, I wanted to scream. So yeah, this case could have been easily much better if we just killed off this guy and it ended way sooner. Shame too, since everything before the final act was really good, but not good enough to save it from going in the B tier. Number 31, The Stolen Turnabout. This case sees Phoenix solving a theft? Oh shit, it's not a murder for once! I was honestly convinced that murder was the only crime that existed in this universe, goddamn! Anyway, Phoenix ends up involved because the stolen item in question is actually Maya's family urn, and he ends up defending the suspect, one Ron Delight, who is apparently the true identity of this great thief Gumshoe has been trying to catch, Star Damask. Ron's wife, Siri, is adamant that there's no way her Ronnie could be the Star Damask, so Phoenix takes his case. Start off with my positives. I love Ron and Desiree. They are just so cute together, and I was so happy they didn't do some dumbass twist that one of them was actually trying to set the other up or something. And in reality, while Ron is actually the thief, the only reason he's been stealing all this expensive shit is to pay for his wife's expensive shit, as she has crazy shopping habits. Aww. What true love. We also get introduced to Trials and Tribulation's main prosecutor in this case, Godot, and he easily makes the best first impression out of all the trilogy prosecutors. I love when he brags about how he's an undefeated prosecutor, only to reveal he's never even prosecuted a case. And his petty ass attitude to Phoenix for cryptic reasons kept me intrigued to what his deal was, and he was just really funny. We also get to see Adrian Andrews again after all the horrific shit that happened to her in Justice for All's final case, and it's good to see she's in a better place. And she ends up lying and getting more involved in this case for some really funny reasons. Lastly, I can't talk positives about this case without bringing up our true culprit, Look at Me, who's fucking brilliant. His over-the-top attitude and his self-inserted rivalry with Phoenix was hilarious, and I love how self-centered he is to the point that his fucking name is Look at Me. They actually cooked with a name pun for once. So there is a lot to love about this case, but I've got a couple problems. With the biggest being I really hate the fact that halfway through it turns from theft to murder. Oh my god, bro!
You tripping, bro? You tripping!
And I know that's a weird complaint, but not every case has to 1. Be a murder, and 2. Have 2 investigation segments and 2 trial segments. And I just think the case would have worked a lot better if it was from the starting point to the halfway point, and it would have felt to me a satisfying second case. But no, we gotta drag it out by making it seem like Ron is actually a murderer instead of a thief. And man, that second investigation segment drags. I was stuck in this for so long, this became the first time in the trilogy I said fuck it and got a guide on how to progress. I was that bored. And the way this case ends feels very off, as it turns out that Ron did steal the urn but didn't do the murder. So Phoenix ends up using that to his advantage to prove Look at Me was the killer, meaning Phoenix proves Ron innocent of a crime he actually did commit, which I just don't see Phoenix doing, especially after the previous case timeline wise. And I did have a lot of fun with the second trial segment and thought the mystery was still fun to crack, but it just felt so unnecessary. So yeah, I do really like this case, but I think it would have benefited ending earlier than it did. Your Honor, play the clip of Prosecutor Gavin's guitar catching on fire. But her forehead, that would be the 700th time you've played that clip. Yes. And that about sums up number 30, Turnabout Serenade, a case I've noticed most people would say would be one of the worst cases in the entire franchise. And I gotta absolutely disagree with that. This case has issues, oh it really fucking does, but it also has a lot of positives that, for me at least, balance it all out. But I'll get the negatives over with first, and I gotta say this case's biggest problem is how many fucking times I gotta watch this stupid ass clip of Glavier's guitar catching on fire. I swear Apollo was just doing this to humiliate him on purpose. There was no reason we had to replay it so much. Also, if we do have to replay it so much, why can't we fucking skip it? There's a moment where Apollo plays it for the judge to notice something, and the judge's dumbass ain't picking up on it. So Apollo says, play it again, but slower? What? Why can't I skip this? Another big problem I have with this case is some of the leaps in logic. Now I can still enjoy cases with big leaps in logic as long as the mystery is fun to solve and the pacing is good. So batshit insanity is alright, mate, it's kinda core for the part with this series. However, how the fuck does the court think this literal child killed this giant man? Also, why is this fucking child so uncooperative? I swear a good hour could have been saved if this kid just gave Apollo some basic information. Also, while not a huge problem, I feel like this case could have been a little bit shorter. But as for my positives, I love Clavier Gavin so much, he's so sexy. And a huge thing I love here is the simple back and forth between him and Apollo. It just feels like this is where the writers really got a hold of what they wanted their dynamic to be, and it's great. And I also love how he deals with his best friend Darian potentially being the true culprit. He's so neutral during the proceedings and even complimenting Apollo when he makes good observations about how Darian could be the true culprit. And it's just such a breath of fresh air to have a prosecutor like this. I also love when he gets so worked up over Apollo suggesting the most ridiculous ass explanation ever just for it to be right. Speaking of which, I really enjoy Apollo in this case, and I think out of the 4 cases in this game, this is at his best, as he actually feels like the main character of it as Phoenix takes a major backseat, and I really enjoyed how confident he was in the second half. Darian Crescent is also a really fun culprit. He's just so punchable and smug and it makes him so satisfying to take down. I also love how antagonistic he is towards Apollo as well, and I got a vibe with the shark design. Lastly, even though the mystery makes no sense at all, I don't know, I kinda love it. The smuggling ring, the magic show, and how you end up putting Darian in a position where he has no choice but to confess was all really fun to unravel. So overall, a lot of negatives, but I enjoyed too much to dislike it. Number 29, The Rite of Turnabout. This case reintroduces Maya after 2 straight games in the mainline ones without her, and she's arrested like 5 minutes after seeing her. She truly is back, as she's accused of murdering the country of Kharine's high priest Tarustin, okay, and Phoenix takes her defense, leading him to investigating a realm of Kharine's royal princess Rhaefa, who like the rest of her country is adamantly racist towards the lawyer race. To start off with the good, this case adds some wonderful world building to the country of Kharain. We get to see stuff like how their local culture and businesses work to their native animals, and that they even have their own steel samurai knockoff, the Plummet Punisher. And it helps you actually get to see the country this time as opposed to the first case where you're kind of thrusted into the court immediately. So we even get to see more little things like architecture and fashion, and it all makes the country feel so real and lived in. absolutely loved Maya in this case, and I see a lot of debate online whether she should have come back or not, and I think bringing her back here was completely validated by the clear character growth shown here. She feels older and more mature, but didn't lose her Maya-ness, and she's still really funny, and still has her stupid little arguments with Phoenix, although she's apparently put the latter one behind her. And I love how caring and gentle she is towards Princess Rayfa after her trial's finished, even though Rayfa was so openly hostile towards her the whole time. But she knows and sympathizes with what Rayfa's going through by the case's end, and it's just beautiful to see. But as Phoenix says it himself, Maya will always be Maya. Like Rayfa in this case, she starts off very annoying, but slowly. And
I mean fucking slowly.
Gets more tolerable as it goes on, and becomes more pleasant towards Phoenix. And you can see in the way she talks that her stance on her corrupt country is slowly breaking. Kinda. It also helps you meet her mother, Hitler, Queen Garan, so it helps contextualize why she is the way she is. So I really like this case, but there is some issues, per usual. First off, this case goes on far too fucking long. I swear you could cut an hour and it wouldn't change shit. There's also a lot of retreading old information, and I hate when Ace Attorney does this. Just restating shit that happened in the previous investigation or courtroom segment, come on man. And I also fucking hate this game's main prosecutor, Nayura Sakmare. Like, what does Blood even do? He's literally Edgeworth without the sauce and good writing. And he has no personality, and he doesn't even feel like he's growing weirdly enough. And I know that's sort of what they were going for, but it just leads to the most dry courtroom banter ever. Lastly, the twist of how the victim set up his suicide to look like a murder is a decent twist, and his motivation to cover up his wife's accidental manslaughter makes sense. But the way the game tries to make you feel bad for this asshole when he set Maya up to look like the murderer for two different people, fuck off. I think if they made it so he didn't try to make it look like Maya, but when he was channeled and realized she was the suspect and got desperate to protect his wife, would have made more sense. So yeah, good case with some problems, but the good isn't great enough to push it into the A tier. Number 28, The Adventure of the Runaway Room. This case is our third introduction into the world of the Great Ace Attorney, and it's very good. This case seeing Ryunosuke in his first trial in London being tested by one Damon Gant, an upstanding looking gentleman who would never do anything wrong, who will allow Ryunosuke to be a lawyer if he can successfully defend one Magnus McGilded, an Irishman like myself. Nice! In this series the defendant is always innocent, so let's get my fellow Irish lad out of here. Fuck. To start with my positives, I really appreciate how you just get stuck into the courtroom right away, as opposed to the last case where you weren't in it at all. And this case also introduces us to my favourite racist, Barack Van Zykes, and the sheer aura he has is unreal. His stance, his attitude, and his vampire-like demeanour caught me so off guard the first time I played. I adored him, and he's just unlike any other prosecutor in the series. And this case does a great job of establishing his lore as the Reaper of the Old Bailey. Enjoy the jury examination mechanic introduced here, and I think it's a really fun way to spruce up the courtroom gameplay, with the idea of putting juror statements against each other being a perfect evolution of the tried and true format. And the animations slap. They make Ryunosuke look like the most dorky badass ever. And I love how you get to examine a whole ass omnibus and it has all these cool little Easter eggs the rest of the franchise. It's great. However, I do have one big complaint, and it all comes down to our culprit and defendant, Magnus McGilded. And he works so well for the first 2/3, because they really make it very cryptic if he's the killer or not. And you really want to believe he's innocent, because if he isn't, well, Ryunosuke can't become a lawyer without clearing a killer. And I love that dilemma, and it causes for both us and Ryunosuke, who I might add keeps getting better throughout all these cases. But then the final third just makes it so blatantly fucking obvious he's the killer. And I think that's so lame. Imagine if they kept it unknown till the very end and you still proved his innocence and you leave this case thinking, fuck, did I do the right thing? And it would have made the finale of this game even better, which I'll get to a bit later. To end on a positive, I think the very last anime cutscene of the case with the omnibus on fire just to reveal at the last second there's a man in there is an awesome way to end the case. And the final shot of Van Zykes looking on at the fire was beautiful. So it is a really good case that's edging on great, but just doesn't quite hit it. But you know what? Speaking of edging, all over the place. Number 27, Turnabout Airlines, a case which might have one of my favourite and possibly the most unique setting in the entire series. My broke ass didn't even know you could have a plane with multiple floors, so I was really cool when I first played this. Anyway, the case sees Edgeworth of all people accused of murdering a person in an elevator of all places, one Agent Hicks, an international cop. But Edgeworth being the primary suspect is a mix-up that's quickly cleared up once we find out that the person who accused him is one of the flight attendants, Rhonda, who's an actual dogshit account of how Edgeworth could have done it, so Edgeworth is quickly released, though still being monitored by the captain, but he also gets permission from the captain to investigate the scene, and it's one of my favourite things in this case. It's so fun running around the different sections of the plane, and I found it really interesting to investigate. And the return of Franziska von Karma was an awesome surprise. I had no clue she was in the game, and I loved seeing more of her and Edgeworth's pseudo-brother and sister dynamic, and their banter's fucking brilliant. I love their back and forth. And the case also was a pretty decent red herring killer in Zinc LeBlanc, who was just so over the top dickheady I thought, fuck it, he has to be the killer. But nah, he's just a rich asshole. Although in a really funny surprise, it turns out he's not even rich, as the artwork he was shipping was fake and he loses his 1 million cents! And Cammy is an alright killer. Her old fake sleepy thing was funny, and when she suddenly locks the fuck in, it got me to sit up. Not much to say, but her breakdown's good. Overall, a really good case. I have nothing really bad to say about it. I enjoyed it. Number 26, The Twisted Karma and His Last Bow, the setup of all setup cases, and it's this high for very simple reasons, which I'll get to. But admittedly, on an objective level, this case is probably just a decent setup case. Though it does a great job of setting up why Ryunosuke's long-fought dead best friend Kazuma sudden return as a prosecutor makes sense. And it sets the stakes really high with our defendant being the CEO of racism himself, Barack Van Zykes. And the fucking scene where Gina runs in and tells us Detective Gregson, the Great Ace Attorney Duology's gumshoe equivalent essentially, is dead, is a brilliant scene. As it just happens out of nowhere and it's so sudden, so you feel like you're processing all this just as much as the cast is. And this case has such a great tone as well, with this horribly sinister feeling as you delve deeper and deeper and deeper into the murders of the Professor, London's most notorious killer, who's at the heart of this case's mystery and the whole duology's, even tying to Kazuma, who just works so well as the prosecutor here. He kinda has the same unstoppable feeling I got from Von Karma all the way back in the first game, but he's not underhanded at all like he was. He just has the perfect responses to all of Ryunosuke's arguments. Best part is you can really understand where he's coming from with his motivation here, as he's determined to find out if the Professor was really his own father. Just such a good, simple motivation. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, we get a proper deeper look into why Van Zykes is so racist. The way he is. And I adored seeing him slowly open up more and more to Ryunosuke and finally show some vulnerability and start showing some respect towards them. And Ryunosuke and Susato, man, they are so well done here, as Kazuma's return makes the two of them reevaluate what they want to do with their lives. As Ryunosuke was only an attorney to honor Kazuma, and Susato was only his assistant because they thought Kazuma was dead. And it's awesome to see them look back on everything they've been through together and what they want to do going forward. I have to mention how amazing the dance of deduction in this case is. Sherlock deducting his old partner as the King of Germany who broke his favourite teacup might just be the greatest sentence I've ever written down in this script. And the way Susato has to suddenly, without any prompting, start dancing after Sherlock gets knocked out is fucking brilliant. And that final scene that delves into how Iris's father could actually be Mika Toba, Susato's father, is an amazing final hook that makes you want to jump straight into the final case. So yeah, it might just be setup, but it's the best fucking setup I've ever played. So I'm sorry to say, but this video will be split into two parts, and that's it for the first half, as if I tried to cram my thoughts on all 50 cases in one, my phone might explode. Funny enough, and I swear this was not intentional, that was the end of the B tier cases for me, meaning the second video is going to be all the A tier and above, baby. So I can't wait for you all to hear my thoughts soon, but I'd like to make a video or two in between that's a bit shorter. DK is a game I have a lot of thoughts to give on, but I also really want to talk about a game I just finished off my backlog too. Plus, I just got a whole new PC and mic to edit with, so I would like to make the videos to the best of their potential, so that's why I ultimately would like to split this one in half. But if all my beautiful viewers have any games they would like to see me talk about, leave a suggestion. I've played a lot of games, so I've probably played it. But if you enjoyed this video, I'd be over the moon if you could drop a like, and maybe share it around, I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, thanks for watching, here's a goodbye from Kayla, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.